Welcome. This is Holly with Wild Blessings. This is another Teaching Tuesday. And today we are going to explore the wonders of hawthorn. And it's one of my favorite herbal allies and good friends. And I'm just excited to introduce you to that because we all need to keep our heart with all diligence, for from it flows the issues of life. And that's our memory verse for today, which is Proverbs 4:23. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the issues of life. And so what is that issue of life? It's the blood. And our blood is, the life is in the blood. So you want to get the blood to any part of your body that you want to heal. So if your foot, if you don't have any blood in your foot is dead. And so blood needs to get in our fingers and all over the place. And so the more our heart can be healthy and the thinner our blood can be, so it can just be accessed into all of the cells to carry the nutrients and the oxygen and the white blood cells and the water and carry away the waste. That's what the blood does. So the life is in the blood, and keeping our pump healthy, our heart healthy, and our entire cardiovascular system healthy is going to be huge. Because if you have a heart, you need to hear this talk. And so heart disease is the #1 killer in, I believe, our country. I don't know if it's the world, but that's kind of scary. So this herb, hawthorn, is the most amazing tropha restorative herb, meaning can restore the heart back to its normal function, not just be a tonic, but it is a tonic, but it's also just something absolutely amazing for heart health. It's the ultimate herb for heart health. And it's delicious, and especially the way I fix it. And so I'll be showing you all kinds of preparations, but we're celebrating a kind of hearts today. And so I made a gluten-free chocolate cake that Jason's been eyeing, and I did it in the shape of a heart. There's no hawthorn in it, although I could probably, I don't think I'm going to put any hawthorn in that. I just going to make it fun, and we'll have coffee with it, right, Jace? So what else did I do with hearts? Oh, this week I asked the Lord to show me hearts, and today alone he gave me 5, which I put into my intro video. But this is one that I got today, which is just this really cool rock. Let's see if you can see it better. Look at that, shaped like a heart. So one of our contests I want to do this week for you guys is I want you all to post in a thread on Wild Blessings with Holly Drake Facebook group all the heart pictures or your favorite heart picture from nature that you've found, because his love is everywhere and his glory is everywhere, and God's glory is his love. It's what holds it all together. It is what gives us our breath and our life. And anyway, so I'm excited to share with you about this plant. But before we do, I'm going to absolutely take a complete shift and go to pine, because we're going to do pine needle tea first, because my good herbalist friend Suzanne Shires, who spoke on December 14th here in Wild Blessings, she was sharing with me how pine needle tea is absolutely essential for everyone right now. Everyone, whether you have had if you've gotten sick this season with the pandemic or not, this is what you want to be drinking. And so she gave me all these incredibly interesting reasons why it's so amazing, which I'll be sharing in my slideshow later. But just right now, I want to tell you how I made it. So I took the pine needles and I just clumped them together. You want to use fresh pine needles. And I just put them together. Well, I just held them with my hand, but I just got them together with a rubber band as well. And then you just do little tiny cuts. And you want to do like about this much for a quart. So that's what I've got in here. I put a quart of water in there, and I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't, but I then simmered it. And you do never want to boil it because it would boil off the constituents. So you simmer it and just get it all of those constituents into the water, keeping a lid on it so that the volatile oils do not escape. All right, so then I'm going to pour it through. I have a really cool sieve. So there it all is. So I know that we've talked about pine needle tea before. When Jana Jones was here, she showed us how to make it. This is going to be pine needle tea with a twist, and I'm so excited about it. So Suzanne got this from Daryl Patton, who's one of the leading herbalists in the South. He leads the Deep South Herbal Convention every year in Alabama, and I'm getting the privilege of speaking there this year. So I'm looking forward to that. So he came up with this recipe, and he is amazing. And what he recommended was putting into 1 cup. So I'm going to go ahead and make a cup right now to show you. So I made a bunch, and you can make some to go ahead so you have like a day's worth. And I'm going to make some for Jason as well because it's really tasty and so good for us both. So whether you have had the shot or whether you have not, this is still going to be something important for your health. So what did we put in here? Dandelion root tincture. So, of course, I have that, but I didn't have just the root tincture. I have the whole plant tincture, which is fine, but it's mostly in the root, the terpenes that are in there, and I'll explain in the slideshow that I'm going to give you later that Suzanne wrote about. Actually, I should probably just read it to you now, and then you can look at it in slideshow and copy it down if you wish. So she said, pine needle tea is chock full of vitamin C. This tea is a wonderful drink to have every single day. For flu or other illnesses, pine has wonderful properties, including how do you pronounce that, Jason? Shikimic. There you go, shikimic acid, which is also found in star anise, which I have right here. Are those cool? And fennel seed, and they're high in terpenes. Terpenes will stop the replication of viruses, which help in healing and reduction of symptoms. Bone set is the other one, which is right here. Right here. And bone set is also high in terpenes. And adding bone set to pine needle tea will help lessen and sometimes prevent the fibrosis in the lungs. Fibrosis is thickening and scarring of the alveoli in the lungs, and breathing is made difficult. So ventilators do not help with this, she said. But this does. So dandelions also have terpenes. Recent research into dandelion root has shown it to be effective in reducing the spike protein that accompanies the virus and reduces the severity of the virus. Dandelion also helps stop the virus ability to replicate. All plants with terpenes have the ability to help stop the replication of the virus. Another plant with terpenes is magnolia bark, which can be taken internally as a tea, but it has an intensely bitter taste, Suzanne said, and most people do not enjoy that herb. However, it would work if nothing else was available. So I think all of us have access to pine, which is exciting. And if you don't have bone set, then you can try and buy it from the store, or you can use mullein as well. And she had some other interesting ideas about using mullein, which I'll talk about in another time. So then you're going to take just a dropper full of the dandelion and put it into each of the warm cups. It's not boiling, but it's warm, hot, it was hot pine tea. And then I'm going to put in the bone set as well. And bone set was an absolute hero in the Spanish flu in 1918. And that's a whole nother story, which we'll talk about when we feature bone set. Eupatorium perfilatum is its name. And let me get a spoon real quick. All right. Yeah, Eupatorium perfilatum is bone set. It's so cool. It's this unbelievable plant that has a leaf, lanceolate leaves that literally pierce through the middle of the stem. So the leaves here's the stem, and they just are on either side of the stem that go literally through the middle of the stem. And that's why it's called perfilatum. All right, all right, Jace, come over and try this. See what you think. Oops. So there's just been all kinds of studies done on this, and it was exciting that Daryl shared this with Suzanne, and she shared it with us. So here you go. Wait a minute. Let's clink.
Okay. Why am I always the guinea pig?
You are the guinea pig. I love this.
You know what? It's mild. It's a very mild blend.
Yep. Yeah. So
It kind of reminds me of being in the wood shop. You know,
yeah, like gnawing on a 2x4 or something.
that there's a similarity. That's
with
true.
a little honey. So honey makes everything good. I recommend using local honey if you can access that. All right. So that has nothing to do with Hawthorn, but I just thought with everyone, with what they've been going through, this is important. And I just cared and I want to share it with you all. Okay. So that's, I think, amazing. All right. Another thing that I'm herbing around with right now is I'm going to make I'll show you how to make. Here's my hawthorns. They were in the freezer, and this is from last October. They tend to get really ripe around October. They're called haws, the berries. And so what I'm going to do is take, here it is, like a potato masher, and just mash them a little bit. They do have seeds inside, which we'll get into detail about why the seeds are not a good thing, but honestly, they're not that bad of a thing, and I'm not going to eat them. So I think that's fine. I'm just breaking down the cell walls like this. Then I'm going to scoop some of this into this mason jar. There's lots of different ways that you can make a tincture with this, but my favorite way is with brandy and honey. And then I love to add to that the cinnamon sticks and the star anise and cardamom, which I got that recipe from Mountain Rose Herbs. And so that's not what I did last time, but I was looking at their recipe and I thought that looks really good. So I'll be sending out some hawthorn tinctures because I've already made this from before. So I'll be sending out some hawthorn tinctures to the winners of the contest this coming week on heart photos, which is what I want you all to be posting. So we can see the things that God's given you in nature. All right. Because his glory is all around. And I just want you to ask God to give you eyes to see and just be outside for one thing so that you can see the beauty of his creation and look for evidences of his love for you, because it will help you no matter what you're going through to give you the endurance to wait well and to just trust his heart of love for you. All right. So now that I've got the hawthorns in there like that, I'm going to smash them up with one of these things. And then I'm going to pour over some brandy. And there's different ways you can do this. You can actually just do the brandy and put it together like that. And then 6 weeks later, add the honey then. But I'm going to go ahead and add the honey now. And I'm also going to put in the cinnamon sticks, the cardamom powder, and this anise seeds. And there's reasons for all those things. And then I'm going to pour in the brandy. And what I love about making my own tinctures is that they're so, oh gosh, Jason, I can't even open this. Oh, I got it. They're made with so much love and intention and prayer. Because every day I'll be shaking this for 6 weeks and put it in a dark place, in a dark closet somewhere. And then you can shake it while you're praying over it and just thanking God for Hawthorn and remembering all the things I'm going to teach you today about Hawthorn and why you want this plant. So you can eat it, and I'll show you some ways in which I've made it so you can eat it to make a syrup and a vinegar, etc., and a honey. Where did I put the honey? Here it is. All right, and then I'm just going to literally pour all of this honey over it. And you always want to make sure you label your jar. So I actually labeled this one Hawthorn Elixir with brandy and honey and haws. But I forgot to put it in this jar, and I put it in this large jar instead, which is fine. I'll just make sure that I label it. Although this would be pretty easy to discern because you can see the haws are right there. Okay, I'm going to tell you another way you can up this and make this an even more powerful medicine when I do my slideshow. So right now, all it is just the haws. But the whole plant is medicinal. The flowers and the early leaves and even the bark. So I'll even make medicine with the thorns. Okay. So let me get a lid for this real quick. And we'll shake it. Shake, 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 shake. All right. And remember to label it. So I'm going to just put that here for now. And let's get on to the next thing. So the next thing I want to show you, Jason, is it possible for us to look at Barbara ONeill, talk about this in just a minute, about her story? She has a story about how she used hawthorn that made such a difference in a man's life. That it's kind of an interesting story. And I kind of wanted you to hear that before we go into befriending hawthorn and getting to know it a little more personally yourself. But first, before we do, I wanted to tell you about the 8 health laws and remind you what they are, because they are our true healers. And so the acronym NEWSTART, N stands for nutrition, E stands for exercise, W stands for water, S for sunshine, T for temperance, A for air, R for rest, and T for trusting God. And so when it comes to heart health, all of those things are important. The heart is a muscle, and muscle knows no age. And so it's extremely important that we exercise, and there's some really amazing exercises that she recommends for specific heart health that are like better than anything else, which I'm going to give you the link to her talk and in our comments below, and you can watch that because she's the best. But just briefly, you want to do high intensity interval training, which is where you run for as fast as you can for 30 seconds, and then you walk for another 30 seconds or 60 seconds until you have relaxed. And then you run again really hard, and you do that in 6 cycles. Run, walk, run, walk. 6 cycles will do amazing things for your heart health, and it will not overstress you at all. So that's a great way to keep your heart healthy no matter what age you are. And the other one that she really recommends is jumping on a mini tramp. And it could just be simple bouncing. And that is another great way to keep your heart healthy and your blood thin. She also goes into 9 amazing blood thinners that we'll show you in the slideshow. But the most important one, and the cheapest one, and the most important of all that we all have access to is water. So where's my water? This is my water. Anyway, this is pine. So drinking water is essential because we lose so much of it through our urine, through our lungs and breathing, through our skin, through our colon, that we lose 2.2 liters of water a day. And so we've got to be replenishing that and making sure that we have adequate water. And the best way to do that is to have some sea salt with your water. And so make sure that you have, I can't even believe this little block of sea salt is shaped like a heart. That is just crazy. But so if you just put a little kernel on your tongue and then you go to drink your water, it will help your water, the cells to absorb the water better and not just pee it out. It is amazing what a difference that makes. And she goes into great detail about why that works and why our bodies need salt. And she explains why we have high blood pressure and why we have a low blood pressure and how hawthorn can help with those things. And how also she talks about how to thin your blood and how to have good cholesterol levels. And she has some interesting things to say about cholesterol that I found absolutely fascinating. So it's a talk I really recommend, but I wanted you to hear this story where she tells about Henry, who is a judge who came to her health retreat very sick, and she gave him hawthorn. And then the story will play out and you can listen to it right now.
You know, it's up to you to prove to your doctor you can get that blood pressure down and you can get that heart strong and that blood thin. It's up to you. There is a herb that strengthens the heart, and it's called the hawthorn berry. Psalm 104 verse 14, the Bible says, God gave herbs for the service of man. He gave us cayenne pepper to keep that blood nice and thin, best blood thinner. He gave us the garlic. He gave us the hawthorn berry. It's an English herb, but it loves growing in places like Victoria and New Zealand. And a lot of the English brought over the hawthorn berry because they make quite nice hedges. I don't know if you've got hawthorn berries growing here. The hawthorn berry strengthens the heart. If the blood pressure's high, it'll bring it down. If it's low, it'll bring it up. It strengthens the heart. Let me tell you the story of Henry. Henry was a retired judge and came to our health retreat. And he was on blood thinning medication. He was on blood cholesterol medication. He was on blood pressure medication. He was also on blood sugar medication. And he was on medication for gout. And he was also on medication for stomach ulcers. He was in his late 60s. I said, are you interested in coming off your medication? He said, no, thank you very much. I'm very happy with my medication. I always respect everyone's choice. But I gave him the hawthorn berry. We get the berries, dried berries, and we make it in a tea. And he was having a litre of that tea a day. At the end of the week, he said, I'll continue the hawthorn berry. He rang me up 4 months later. He said, Barbara, I'd like to visit you and get some more hawthorn berries. I want to give some to my friends. I said, come for lunch, Henry. When I opened the door, I couldn't believe my eyes. This was a different man. He had lost 20 kilos in 4 months. I said, is that you, Henry? He said, it is. He said, I can do my coat up now. He said, sit down, Barbara. I have a few stories for you. He said, I went to have my blood pressure taken at the doctor a few weeks ago, and the doctor took it, got up and went to walk out. And Henry said, what are you doing? He said, the machine's broken. He said, why do you say the machine's broken? He said, well, your blood pressure's, what is it, usually 180 on 95. That's on medication, by the way. He said, this machine says your blood pressure is 125 on 70. It must be broken. Henry said, that's my blood pressure now. He said, the doctor has taken me off all my medication because my blood is thin. My cholesterol's back to normal. Did you hear that? He said, my blood sugars are normal. I have no more gout. I have no more stomach ulcers. And the doctor says I don't have to have the knee replacements because my knees are happy. Knees don't like a lot of weight. I said, wow, Henry, that's a fascinating story. Tell me what you have for breakfast. I said, I have some fruit, low GI, of course. I have some whole grain cereal. Maybe it's buckwheat. Maybe it's oats. Maybe it's millet. Maybe it's quinoa. And then I'll have coconut cream on that. Did you hear that? Cholesterol came down and 20 kilos lost having coconut cream every morning. You know, the islanders ate coconut cream for years. Every single meal they ate coconut. Never heard of heart disease. He said, and I have some sprinkles of those seeds on top, these ones, and I have a slice of sourdough spelt toast with an avocado and tomato, and sometimes I might have an organic egg. That's not a light breakfast, is it? He said, I don't eat again till lunch, and then I have a salad. I have some vegetables, or baked or steamed. I have some sort of protein, maybe chickpeas or lima beans, and I might have another slice of sourdough spelt toast with avocado. He said, and I do not eat again till breakfast. Very decisive man. He would have been a good judge. When they were at the table, he heard about Michael and his speeding his speeding, and he said, I shouldn't be listening to this. Wow. He said, I do not eat again till breakfast. He said, I do not need to. 20 kilos lost. Would you call that a light diet? That's not a light diet. He's eating very well. But he's eating all of his food in the beginning of the day and the middle of the day. I said, tell me about your exercise program, Henry. He said, I find I can walk another block every week. As his weight drops, as his heart gets and his muscles get stronger, he can go further in less time. So simple. He said, I just want to thank you, Barbara. You've changed my life. I'm almost ready to go back to the bench. He wrote to me. He was of the old school, writing letters. He wrote to me a year later. He said, 38 kilos lost. He said, it's like I'm not even on a diet. And, of course, that has a dramatic effect in getting blood pressure down, is losing the weight. And when you do eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, tea like a pauper, and when you do greatly drop your carbs, eliminate the sugars and the wheats, you will automatically lose weight. You'll lose it without even thinking about it. And isn't that the best diet? The best diet is a diet where you are not hungry. And there are 3 foods that keep the food in the stomach longer. It's fiber, and it's protein, and it's fat. Fat does not cause heart disease. It does not raise cholesterol levels. And we need to eat the healthy fats, which is your coconut oil, your olive oils, your nuts, and your seeds. I don't advocate high fat. I advocate high fiber, lots of vegetables, generous proteins in your legumes, some gluten-free grains, nuts, seeds, and the healthy fats. There's a saying in Australia, it's if you're on a good thing, stick to it. You've heard of that saying? And the Bible says in 1 Thessalonians 5:21, prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. It's old English. Prove it, do it, prove it. And if it works, it's very simple. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it and you get the results. Remember what I said? It is up to you to prove to your doctor. You can get your blood thin. You can get their blood pressure down. Some people choose to stop their medication as they implement this. Some people choose to work with their doctors. And again, all the results will start to show it. But the water must be drunk.
Okay, am I back? All right, so that was such a cool story. So are you interested in getting to know this plant? I think so. I've always loved it, and I have wonderful stories to share in my own life about it. But when you listen to things and you learn and study, as I've been about this plant in the last week or so, it's just made me just appreciate it more and want to embrace it and use it as much as possible and share it with others. So I want to share it with you guys. Okay, so first thing we do when we befriend a plant is we just say, well, what is your name? And so its official name is Crataegus or Crataegus. I can't pronounce it properly. Crataegus species. And I'm saying species because there are up to 1,000 different species of this amazing plant. And the reason why is because they crossbreed and hybridize very easily with one another. All of their leaves are different too, so it's kind of hard to tell them apart. But they're all worked interchangeably. They work the same as far as the medicine that they give to your heart and to your health. And the taste is pretty much the same. So it doesn't really matter what their species are. And I don't even know, I wouldn't be able to tell you which species is which because they all just kind of blend together. So that is its official name. Some of its nicknames are whitethorn and quickthorn and mayhaw. And there's a reason for that as well. And then another thing when you want to know and get to know a person is you want to say, well, where are you from? And so Hawthorn is from England and from the Northern Hemisphere, but it has now been pretty much introduced worldwide, but it came from Europe. And then you want to say, well, tell me a little bit about your family. And the family that Hawthorn is from is the Rosaceae family. And so that's the rose family. And so another plant in the rose family that we studied last September is apples. And so apples are in the rose family, and so is blackberries. So here's my blackberry wine that we made back in the fall, just getting ready for probably a forage to feast sometime in the summer. Anyway, so that's the Rosaceae is the family. And then you want to say, well, tell me a little bit about your history. So there's some interesting folklore about hawthorn. It's been considered a very sacred herb by many different people. In fact, it's been considered the thorns that are on the hawthorn has been believed that the hawthorn was what the crown of thorns was made for Christ when the Jews put it on his head to mock him and call him the King of the Jews and push this into his skull. And so these thorns are nothing to laugh at. They are very, very painful if you get speared by one. So the crown of thorns is one of the histories of that. Another historical lore or history about this plant is it's considered a portal to the other world and associated with fairies. It's used as a maypole in Beltane dances, which is the beginning of spring. And it was also called crataegus, which means flowering thorn. That's how you pronounce that name. They can live up to 400 years old, and they're really most commonly used all around Europe as hedges, like a hedge of thorns. And beautiful and medicinal and wonderful hedges that work to keep, sheep in a field or whatever, but they're also good for you. The Virgin Mary used to have a crown of flowers with the hawthorn. And let's see, it's been known for its courage, for giving the heart courage. So it not only affects physical health, but it affects emotional health as well. So then you say, well, what do you look like? So the lifespan can be up to 400 years of age, and it can be very tall, up to 45 feet tall, or just like a shrub that gets up to 15 feet tall. Its bark is brown or gray, and it has these really long thorns that can be 3/4 of an inch all the way up to 4 inches long. The leaves, I told you earlier, are divergent in shape because there's so many different species that have hybrid together. The young leaves are called bread and cheese. And honestly, if you know why that is, let me know. I don't know why it is. They were called bread and cheese, but I have eaten them. And if you eat them when they're very young, they're very tasty. As they get a little more dense and fibrous, they're not near as enjoyable. And let's see. One way you can tell, no matter what leaf shape is, it will always have a margin that is a little bit serrated and sometimes lobed, but always will have parallel veins in the venation. So that's a good way to remember it. The flowers, because it's in the Rosaceae family, it always has 5 petals. Sometimes the flowers are white, sometimes they're pink, sometimes they're even red, and they have many, many stamens. The seeds, the haws, the berries are inside of the seeds, and the haws ripen to a deep red in the fall. And sometimes they'll persist even into the winter, making them a really important berry for wildlife and for birds. The fruit of the hawthorn is called a pome, P-O-M-E, and it contains 1 to 5 pyrenes, which are stones within its drupes. So it's not just a regular berry, it's a little different. The base of each pome, this is interesting, P-O-M-E, contains a 5-pointed star. Let's see if I can see one. And that 5-pointed star, I never realized this before, there it is there, is because of the 5 petals. So that's kind of cool. I love that. Some quirks about getting to know hawthorn is that if you take this as a heart med, or if you're taking heart meds like digitalis or beta blockers, then you really do need to consult your doctor before taking hawthorn. Hawthorn should not be used with people who have diastolic congestive heart failure. So those are just some warnings. And by the way, I am not a doctor. I'm just a researcher, and I love plants. So always do your own research and always ask those that you respect. The seeds have cyanide in them. And so while you were watching the Dr. ONeill speaking, I went ahead and I took haws and I put them into this jar and I poured honey over the top. And the way you deal with that is, if you wish, you can take the seeds out first and then just pour the honey in it. And I took some of the seeds out, but I left most of them in because it's really not that much cyanide. It's more in a almond than there is even in these seeds. So then when you pass by, you just flip it over. And then a couple hours later, you're passing by on the kitchen counter, you flip it over again. And that's the great way to just infuse and pull out those constituents into the honey. And then your honey becomes more medicinal. Okay, the haws actually don't taste all that great. They kind of have a mealy taste, and they're a little bit astringent, like kind of puckering your mouth. Okay, so those are some interesting things about that. So then what do you do is the next question. And so are you edible? Are you medicinal? Are you useful? And yes, they are extremely edible and have been used for years. I've got lots of recipes that I'll be sharing with hawthorns. But like I said, we can infuse it in honey. You can make a jelly or a jam out of it. You can put it into vinegar. This one has already been infused. Look how beautiful that turned out. So if you're making a salad dressing, just use your hawthorn vinegar, and then you're getting all of the constituents that are so healing in the hawthorn into your salad. Okay, and then you can also make it into an elixir or a tincture, which is really special. But that's not food, that's medicine. Okay, let's see, what's another thing? Oh, I've made syrup out of it in the past. And they kind of taste a little bit sour, and then they taste a little more sweet. You want to wait until after the frost in order to gather the berries or the haws, because it's called bledded, B-L-E-D-D-E-D. Mark Williams told me about that. And it will mean that they are much more vibrant and full of a little sweeter if you wait until that point. Sometimes it's hard to wait because you're afraid that the birds will get there first. All right, the flower can be made into a wine, has a very pungent flavor, and the hawthorn berry wine has a fruity flavor and has a soothing, calming effect. Let's see. The early leaves can be eaten in a salad, and the early flowers can also be eaten in a salad, but they have kind of an unusual flavor to them. So I don't particularly care for that, but I do love to make it into the medicine. So speaking of medicine, let's go ahead and talk about how to make that. Okay. So what I did is I went up to the top of Snake Mountain where there are thousands of hawthorn trees. I went in the early spring and I got the early leaves, and I went back later and I got the flowers, and I put them into a jar to make a medicine, and then I poured over Scotch whiskey. I also put some of the thorns in there and shook it all through the summer. When the fall came around and I collected the berries, I just added it to the same menstruum that I had been keeping all since the spring. And so then when I finally decanted that, probably in November, it was pretty powerful medicine. It had all of it, not just the haws. So you can do that. There's so much you can do, and there's really no one way to do it best. I enjoyed that, but this year I did not get up to snake, and I didn't get the early flowers. So this is just the haws. This is some dried hawthorn that you can make a tea out of. It has the dried leaves, and it has the dried haws in here as well. My favorite way to preserve the haws until you're ready to work with them is just to freeze them, which is what I had a whole bag of, which is what we're working with here. All right, so let's talk about some of the medicinal things it can do for you. It's rich in flavonoids, so it's really good to fight against free radicals, and it's very protective of the cardiovascular system. When you see their thorns, they're so pointy and long, and they are not like blackberries that catch at you. They are, you can reach in and you can get the haws without sticking yourself, but it takes intentionality so you don't get hurt. You can get an abundant amount of haws from one tree. And they love to grow along the edges of forests, so that's a great place to find hawthorns. It was so funny. I was so excited learning about this plant back in 2008 that I wanted to buy one. So I went to Shiloh's to Joe Hollis, and I purchased for $26 a hawthorn tree. And when I came home and planted it so proudly, I then went around my yard and I discovered I had 21 hawthorn trees that I didn't even know I had. So take a look around, and if you see a tree with long thorns on it, I'll watch it and see if it isn't a hawthorn, because they are all over these mountains, and they're such a gift. Okay, so it can be used for digestion, for diarrhea, for cardiac weakness. If you've got high blood pressure, it'll lower it. If you have low blood pressure, it'll higher it. It's an adaptogenic for your body. It's an astringent, meaning it tightens and tones tissues. It's an antioxidant, like I told you about with the flavonoids. It regulates blood pressure. It strengthens the blood vessels. It strengthens the heartbeat. It helps to settle down irregular heartbeat. And I have seen that work so many times in my own life and also my mom's life. It can help with hypertension, and it can reduce plaque buildup in your veins. So amazing. So it nourishes and feeds the heart muscle like nothing else. So I could go on. There's so much more. So is it useful? Yeah, it is. What it's prized for is the wood is especially prized for making hard tools, like handles for tools, because the wood is so hard. And so that's one use. And the other use is that it's really an excellent hedge for your property. And I love having hedges that are edible and medicinal as well as useful like that. And it also has 150 species of insects that like to hang around hawthorn, which is great because they're great. Is a great pollinator. Oh, it helps to with anxiety as well. Treats insomnia, has skin benefits, just overall health. Helps with blood circulation. You know, honestly, to tell you the truth, anything that helps the blood is going to help almost anything in the entire body because the blood, the life is in the blood. And so if you can strengthen the heart and you can thin the blood and you can get it to every cell and do its thing, then you're going to be healthier overall. So I love hawthorn. It's also really good for when you have emotional heartbreak. And so whenever I have a friend who has lost a loved one, I always send them a hawthorn tincture. And I love to take Joy, which is an essential oil blend that has rose in it, which is also in the rose family, obviously, and a very high frequency. And I'll put a few drops of that in as well. And so if you are one of those people that I've given hawthorn to, I've done it for many of my dear friends, let me know in the comments how much it blessed you and helped you. I know it absolutely makes a huge difference in my life. So just drinking it here, I'm putting, this is my hawthorn tea that I made. And so this is just a simple way to get it in you. You can drink it as a hot tea. This is a cold tea. And so I pour a little bit of that in there. And then I take some seltzer water. And you can make kefir water. I've done that in the past too. I just don't have any kefir grains growing right now. And then drink it like a soda. Wow. That is so good. So you know that it's not just a nice tasting drink. It's actually feeding and helping your health and your heart. Okay. Oh, here's a trick that a lot of herbalists do. They recommend throwing a handful of the haws, the dried haws, into teas and infusions of other herbs. So for example, it doesn't work against other herbs. It actually helps other herbs. So just by adding that in, you're adding the flavor and you're also adding all of those medicinal benefits to whatever herb you're working with. So that's a kind of a trick that a lot of herbalists use. Other good herbs for the heart are motherwort, rose, St. John's wort, lemon balm, and oats. So those are my top favorite ones. Seven Song says that because there are lots of hybridizations, that use all the flowers are stronger. He likes to use the flowers more for the medicine than actually the haws. That's one reason why I like to use all of it. So you pick and you decide which you think is best. So I'm going to go ahead and show you my slideshow. Jace, I'll probably just come over there and just push it myself. Should I do that? No? Okay. So this will show you some of these things that we've been talking about. It will start with the pine needle tea, and we will end with some pictures of hearts, and we'll talk a little bit about love. So go ahead and get that started. Okay, so that showed you a little bit of the life cycle pictures of the plant, of what it looks, the leaves look like, what the bark looks like, those thorns. Snake Mountain is where there's thousands of hawthorns in a grove, but I haven't been there in so many years because I've found so many of them here on my mountain. And also, sometimes you lose a shopping center because people start purchasing the land and building on it. And so the last time I was there, there was some building going on. So I don't know if anyone knows what's going on top of Snake now. I'd sure like to know. I'm talking about off of Rich Mountain. I'll never forget going up there. Oh, I know. I was in Earth Fair and I was talking to the checker about how much I was buying some hawthorn haws, and they're expensive to buy at the store like that. And I go, I just so want to find them here in the high country where I can forage for them. This is so many years ago. And somebody was standing right behind me and she said, are you talking about hawthorn? And I said, yes. And she said, there's a whole grove of them on the top of Snake Mountain. I was like, what? And so, of course, that very day I went to Snake Mountain and I climbed up to the top of there, and there were hundreds of these trees. I went back again later with some of my apprentices, with the D's and with Sharon Greer, and not only did we find hawthorns in abundance, but we found ramps. And so it was just, I love that place. And I have so many good memories of being there with those kids, and just the abundance that God has provided for us. So let's see, Jace, I cut a piece of the heart cake for you. Would you like to, I'll put it here for you to have later. And let's see, there's the contests this week are going to be the photos of the hearts that you find in nature. And just ask God every day when you get outside that to show you, to open your eyes to see evidences of his love all around you, hidden in plain view. So today when I was walking to the edge of the ridge, along the ridge, I found 5 of them. And so I took those pictures and they're in the intro. So I hope you enjoyed that. And I want to see your pictures. Also, if you write a plant poem about hawthorn, all you have to do is just look at your notes if you took notes, and just try to use those as bones for a poem. And if you have a jeweler's loop in the spring, when you find a hawthorn tree, just look at those pretty flowers, look at all those stamens, see if you can count them. There's so many. And look at the colors and see what kind, maybe you can figure out what kind of a species you have of hawthorn. Let me know if you've ever done hawthorn tinctures or used it for medicine, if you've used it to help your blood pressure or to strengthen your heart in some way. I'd love to hear some testimonials. Yeah, I hope this has given you appreciation for my friend Hawthorn, and I look forward to hearing what you have to share about that. Thank you so much for joining me.
Okay, this is the promo guy that steps in at the end. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button down below. If you enjoyed
I always
this
forget to
video.
say that.
Maybe you're going to be watching it later on. Maybe they're not watching it as we do it live. So like and subscribe so you won't miss any more of the Teaching Tuesday Wild Blessings videos. Mm-hmm. And if you could also go to patreon.com and look up Wild Blessings, you'll find Holly has a page there. Allows you to support her Wild Blessings classes, which they're being offered for free online through Facebook and YouTube. So thank you.
And guess what Jason and I are going to be doing this week? Can you guess? The weather is 40 degrees above zero during the day, and it freezes at night. So what does that tell you? What do we need to be doing right now this week? What did we do last year this time?
I think you might as well tell
Tapping
them.
Maple trees or birch trees or black walnut trees or hickory trees, shagbark hickory. So yes, tapping this is the time of year to do that when it's above 40 during the day and freezing at night. That's when the sap is running, and you can look at my video on seeing trees that I posted from this. I posted it earlier this week from last year, and you can learn all about how to do that and how to make the most of this time of year, because even though it seems like a pause, there's a lot of life going on below the surface and behind that bark. and lots of things that you can do in winter work. So check that out and learn about that there. I'll put that in the comments below as well. Okay, God bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining me.